Hey everyone, this is Michael with another video update. I apologize that these have been a bit few and far between. I've really been doing some deep inner work, doing my shadow work, and I think it's so important for the times that we are in, and it's actually a very useful and relevant preface to the video I have at hand for us today. I've really been sitting with some intense emotions, and it's not even necessarily tied to the quarantine or the lockdown. So much of why this time is stressful is because we can't outrun ourselves. We're being forced to really face ourselves, to face our lives, to face our circumstances, and there's only so much escape that we can do. And so instead of trying to distract ourselves all the time, I think there's actually something very beautiful in almost melting into these emotions until we get to the core and understand why we're actually feeling the way that we feel. In the past 48 hours specifically, I have actually felt more like myself. I have felt this sense of spiritual rebirth than I have felt in years. And it's absolutely incredible. And even in this time of challenge, even in these dark times that we are in right now, the light still exists. But you have to go in, you have to be willing to go through that dark tunnel in order to find it. And that's super relevant for the topic at hand, which is Pluto, specifically the Pluto retrograde that started yesterday on April 25th and will be occurring all the way until October later on this year. And for those of you who don't know what a retrograde is, I'm actually going to be explaining all of these astrological terms in the best of my ability. I'm going to try and go slow here so everyone can understand. And even if you don't, I hope you at least get the gist of what I'm talking about here. With Pluto going retrograde, a retrograde is basically when a planet appears like it is moving backwards in the sky. This is an optical illusion just based on the way that the planets orbit around the sun. It's not that the planet Pluto is actually moving backwards. But what this means astrologically for our lives here on Earth, the way we are perceiving this energy, is that Pluto is almost becoming an introvert. Its energy is going within, and it's already a very internal planet. Pluto is actually the Greek equivalent, or I'm sorry, the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Hades, which is the god of the underworld. Pluto pertains to death, leading into rebirth. It also pertains to sexuality, magic, mystery, darkness, potency, power, and it's basically all these taboo things that we kind of like to star into the closet and not talk about. So it's a really interesting energy, and it's one that we don't necessarily always feel either. Because Pluto is so slow moving, being the last planet in the solar system, it actually takes several years for it to move just through one sign. It's been in the sign Capricorn since 2008, and it's going to remain there all the way until 2024. So we're kind of towards the end of this. But it's kind of interesting to me that Pluto is so misunderstood and a lot of the time even dismissed in astrological circles for what it gives. I don't think that it's a small energy at all. I think it's just something that moves so slowly we don't necessarily see it all the time. And it works in a very deep level. It's very beneath the surface. It's very internal. And it's kind of funny how even in astronomy there's kind of this debate, is Pluto a planet? Is it a dwarf planet? What the hell is Pluto? Astrologers are still kind of trying to figure that out as well. And it's really interesting to me that Pluto is very relevant to this year that we are in, because there's actually a lot that's going on in the stars where it's really showing us that this energy is very profound to our lives right now. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. So anyway, with this Pluto going retrograde, it's a lot about letting go and a lot about releasing control, because a lot of us think that our sense of power is our ability to control our external environment or our ability to have a say in a matter, and sometimes it just isn't. Sometimes that is what our power lets us do, and other times it's not. And so for the next few months, all the way until October, it's really important to have this mantra of what is in my power to do today? Where does my power come from? What am I releasing today? What am I letting go of control of today? A lot of us have already been playing this game. A lot of us have really been kind of using this as self-help to move through this challenging time. and with it specifically in the sign of Capricorn. This is very interesting because Capricorn to me represents a lot of the status quo. It's business, it's who we are in the world, it's the midheaven in astrology, kind of our public persona here, the role we have in society at large. So a lot of people talk about career, they talk about finance in that sort of way. I also think of it as government because Capricorn is very much a patriarchal energy, and I see this planet creating a lot of change in government. And we're seeing a lot of this, especially with Saturn, that is now in the sign of Aquarius, but also going to be moving back into Capricorn later this year as well, and then finally returning into Aquarius towards the end. There is this decentralization of power that we are seeing right now. And if you live in the United States, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. We're seeing things kind of break down at the federal level, and it's actually going more at the state level. And so we're seeing structures as a whole really be transformed and really be changed. And that's going to affect us personally as well. And again, it's where do I derive my power? Where do I derive my sense of self? Am I gaining that from the externals, from my life, from my position? Or is that something that I feel within? And that's, again, something that I've just been doing in the past 48 hours. And it's so profound. As an intuitive, I can see things, you know, I can see patterns, I can see energy, I can see the way things are, but it's very, very different to experience that as a perception versus feeling that as a state of being, anchoring that into my heart. And so for a lot of you, you may already know this intellectually. Obviously, my power comes from within, but we don't have the faintest clue of what that actually feels like. And this is a really profound time for us to figure all of this out, especially with what I'm going to be talking about next. And that's the fact that Pluto is actually conjuncting the sign Jupiter. This only happens every 9 to 11 years, I think, this conjunction. And basically what a conjunction is two planets right in the same degree in the same sign. They're aligned with one another. And it almost makes the energy become one. We actually had this conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter earlier on this year on April 4th. We have it again occurring on June 30th, and then finally we will have it on November 12th later on this year. And Jupiter is a very expansive energy. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition because Jupiter is a very bright and radiant energy. It's almost our planet of luck. It's actually Zeus, which is interesting. And, you know, Zeus and Hades are brothers, but they're so different from each other. And you have these two very different energies coming together. You have the sky meeting the underworld. And there's a lot of expansion that can come from doing your shadow work, that can come from letting things go. And it's almost in letting something go, you will gain back what you lost to a much more magnified degree. Or you will let go of something and you're going to realize how much that thing was holding you back. And something new and better and brighter is going to be coming in. And Pluto isn't all bad. I know it has this really bad rap, and it's actually funny. I've been studying up on Greek mythology lately, kind of in my downtime. Hades is a really misunderstood god. He is actually, of all the Olympians, one of the kindest and one of the most gentle. Yeah, he did definitely kidnap his wife, and they seem to have a really nice Stockholm relationship together because they actually are described as having a very lovely relationship outside of the fact that, you know, he did kidnap her and kind of betrothed her in that way. But he did ask Zeus for permission. Zeus didn't really give him an answer. So it's kind of this weird situation. If you're not familiar with Greek mythology, I would definitely read up onto it because it is interesting and it is relevant to astrology. And in the same vein, Pluto is kind of misunderstood as well. Even if the story of Hades does not age well in today's world, Hades was kind of seen in this sort of paradoxical way. Hades is not necessarily the god of death either. Hades didn't want to be god of the underworld. It was just given this role. That's what it was assigned by Zeus. And it's kind of like a situation we're in now. We may not have chosen this situation. We may not have chosen the underworld that we're living in. Oh my goodness. But we are able to find some beauty here and really discover ourselves and discover our real sense of power. And that's so, so valuable. So I don't want you to hear this and freak out. I want you to hear this and feel this dynamic shifting within you. There is a big change that we are a part of right now. And Pluto, while it does have a tendency to sometimes strip things down to the core, whatever it dissolves was not true to that core. You're going to be seeing that. You've already seen that in your life. And your sense of power, your sense of self, it doesn't have to come from the externals anymore. That's the spiritual growth. That is the Jupiter energy, the spiritual guru. This is a time of enlightenment. We are going to be seeing so many people have spiritual breakthroughs this year. And it's almost like through that dark night of the soul. But it's so deep and rich. And for today's message, I actually did pull a color healing card. And I actually pulled the color chocolate, this brown color, this rich, deep color. And while chocolate does have this bitter flavor, it can also be sweet. And it's kind of finding the sweetness in the bitterness. That is so, so important for the time that we are in right now. And for those of you who are feeling ungrounded, this brown color is very good at connecting your energy to the earth, which a lot of us are not feeling right now, especially those of us who aren't able to go outside. And the message for this card is nourish your body and soul. And while I am all for shameless indulgence from time to time, I think it's really important to be doing this in moderation and nourish yourself with healthy things too. Have some chocolate. Maybe that's something that your soul needs right now. Maybe that's something some of you really need. Chocolate is actually a very powerful medicine because it comes from cocoa or cacao, which is very powerful with the third eye. Kind of jokes aside for a second here. So if you do have access to cacao specifically, that could be a very powerful medicine for you. Maybe even doing a cacao ritual at home. You can, again, kind of Google that online. That might be something that's useful for some of you. But with this chocolatey brown color, really grounding your energy. Because when you take care of your body, you allow your soul, your spirit, your true self to really inhabit it. Your body is a temple. And that's also going to be very important, especially with Venus that's going to be retrograde next month. There's a lot of retrogrades that we're going to be going through, and it is going to be slowing some things down, and any progress that we make, it might be a bit more gradual than we want it to. So we really have to surrender to this time, at least for now. It's not forever. It's not. And to really take care of yourself through this transition, but also don't be afraid to get a little dark. Get that dark chocolate. Find the sweetness in it. I would even do that as a meditative practice. You know, let a piece of dark chocolate melt in your mouth. Really experience and be mindful of that flavor, of that texture, that transformation, that Pluto transformation there, changing form, and finding the sweetness in all of it. And I think that's pretty much everything for this video. I hope that this was helpful. I hope it gave you some things to think about, maybe some new information, if nothing else. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media. I'm going to be doing video updates on Instagram and on Facebook. And I hope to see you all again very soon. Take care, everyone.